Call to order the City Council regular meeting of June 16th and ask all of those who would like to join the council and myself in the Pledge of Allegiance to please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is a very, very special evening. I have the honor this evening to induct Mayor Ava Freisinger into the Issaquah Hall of Fame. A couple of words about that award. That award is a top honor for a lasting contribution to our community. The award is based on imagination, service, leadership, civic mindedness, activity in drawing positive attention to the community, fundraising efforts for the public good, and length of service to our community. The award was presented to Ava at the Community Awards ceremony about 3-4 weeks ago. And Ava joins a long list of people who have received that award, many of them who are here this evening. So Ava, if you would please come forward, and I'd like to invite also, come on up, some previous award winners who are here this evening to help us celebrate your induction into the Hall of Fame. This evening we have the 1993 award winner, Suzanne Souther, and we also have the 2001 award winner, David Harris, the 2003 award winner, Robin Kelly, the 2004 winner, Marty Butkus. I see Bob Green snuck in back there. Or Gray, excuse me, Bob. Leo Finnegan is here, who won the award in 2005. Skip Rowley in 2008, and Barb D. Michelle in 2012. So these are some very special and distinguished people in our community who represent folks who have made a tremendous contribution to making Issaquah what it is today. And so Ava, you received your award, and I'd like to be able to show your name on the plaque yet, but it hasn't come back from the engraver yet. But I know all of your fellow Hall of Fame awardees join me in thanking you for your many contributions. And a round of applause again for all of our previous award winners and their tremendous service. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And there's still there's still plenty of cake out there and coffee.
There is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Our next item of business is audience comments. A few general words about audience comments. When recognized, please come to the microphone. State your name, address, and your relationship to the city. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And if you have written comments, please submit those to the clerk. And so with that, I would ask, has anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Yes, and I have no problem pronouncing this name. Ava Freisinger?
Ava Freisinger, 415 Southeast Bush Street, here in Issaquah. And this particular topic is one having to do with one of the relationships that I have with the city, and this particular one is as president of Friends of the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery. This is a letter that the Friends of the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery have written to the mayor and the city council, and I would like to read it so that it may be recognized publicly. Dear Mayor Butler and members of the Issaquah City Council, the Friends of the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery wish to pass along our congratulations and appreciation to you and city staff for outstanding work representing the city of Issaquah in the most recent WIRA 8 2014 Watershed Management Grant Program. WIRA is Water Resource Inventory Area, also known as the Salmon Recovery Council. Out of 15 proposals that were submitted, 9 were selected for site-specific restoration and acquisition projects. Of those 9, 4 were City of Issaquah proposals. And of the $1.5 million available for distribution, the funding that has been recommended for Issaquah's projects is slightly shy of $500,000, so a third of the funding. Without the excellent work from your staff and the City Council's support for salmon recovery, the Issaquah Creek watershed would have lost an invaluable opportunity to fund this much-needed work. As is in the past, it was noted that Issaquah consistently makes persuasive presentations. During this time of hypercritical focus on city governments, we wanted to make sure that when the city does a good job, it gets proper recognition. Please accept Fish's thanks and gratitude for a job well done and convey the same to city staff. Fish appreciates partnering with a city that has such a strong commitment to the preservation and conservation of our salmon. And that is signed by Jane Keekley, the Executive Director, on behalf of the Fish Board of Directors. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
For some of you, I'm kind of a broken record. Tiffany Endries, 4240 192nd Court Southeast in Issaquah, resident since 1980, unofficial or something. First of all, thank you, council members Winterstein and Goodman, for meeting with my neighborhood about our situation. Also, Gary and Sheldon for taking the time to walk with me on the area. This is really nerve-wracking being up here like this. I totally lost it. And for the transportation department, wherever you are, members, for moving our little Westlake Sammamish Parkway project up to spot number 10. I'm here basically to request that you vote this in, approve this $50,000 into the budget when it comes up in September, I believe, October. With the growth that's going on in Issaquah, it's more and more pedestrians on this road, more and more traffic on this road. People do not pay attention to the speed limit. They also do not pay attention to the lovely white line that shows that there is a shoulder there. Paul and Gary were out there walking with, or Sheldon, sorry, and Gary were walking with me, and we saw a lady driving, I mean, halfway into the shoulder for a good 100 yards or so. People, I mean, it's not a manageable thing for police to go in and be there 24/7. It's not a safe area for pedestrians. The one side is the state park side, is the shoulder that I just referenced. The other side is the freeway side, where we have in some spots only a chain link fence to separate us from I-90 traffic that is going 60-plus miles per hour. I think it's 4 lanes there. And cars have been known to go through, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, that one went through the thing, and had a pedestrian actually been there, they would have been dead. That is the access that our neighborhood has to the city of Issaquah as pedestrians. We are asking for anything. There are some recognized pinch points that have been addressed in the $50,000 study that we're asking for. Even get us going through the Greenwood Point or Greenwood Trust property, off of that state park or off of the parkway onto this Greenwood Trust property. Anything to get us safely to Issaquah as pedestrians and bicyclists. Tonight coming in, I was on the road for maybe 4 minutes. There were 3 runners, a pedestrian, and 3 bicyclists, all in just that one little stretch in the couple minutes that I was on the road. Sorry, I got to check my notes here real quick. As Issaquah is growing, we are all incredibly gung-ho excited about the vision for the new Issaquah core, which is very much pedestrian-based, which is wonderful for those who can access Issaquah as pedestrians. For those of us who don't have that access, we're stuck, and we are one of the gazillion cars that have to find parking spots. I understand that the Issaquah Highlands is kind of a parking nightmare also, and Issaquah Highlands are wonderful, but it's awful for those who have to drive there. It's wonderful for the inhabitants up there. It's a great model. It's a wonderful plan. It would be lovely to have this down here too, as long as all could access, all Issaquah residents could access it. I think that's about it. Again, reiterating, thank you for the time and energy that those of you have put into us. Just if we could get this project moving forward, because it's a safety issue. I'm not asking for new stuff. I'm not asking for anything pretty or frou-frou. We are asking for just basic, safe infrastructure. I think that's it. Broken record again. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Renee Zimmerman and Carrie McGill. Mayor Butler, members of the City Council, staff, and members of the audience. My name's Renee Zimmerman, and I am a resident of Issaquah Highlands, but I'm here this evening as the Executive Director of Eastside Baby Corner. And
I'm Carrie McGill. I'm the incoming board president for the Eastside Baby Corner and also the CEO of Rowley Properties.
Now, we are here this evening to provide comments on behalf of Eastside Baby Corner as well as the Alliance of Eastside Agencies, otherwise known as AEA. Now, the AEA is a network of Eastside health and human service providers whose mission is to build healthy communities and a strong human services network in the greater East King County through collaboration, mutual support, as well as the promotion of excellence. I am very passionate about the work that we do right out here in your backyard in Issaquah, but we provide services throughout the greater East King County, and the impact that we make here is absolutely imperative in our communities. But we can only do this work and see the impact that we make to these children aged birth to age 12 within these communities with the financial support that we get from communities as well as the city of Issaquah.
So Eastside Baby Corner has basically been giving children what they need to be healthy and resilient for 24 years now. Over 100 programs and providers rely upon Eastside Baby Corner to help families become housed, safe, and employed. As an integral part of the Eastside safety net, we recognize the value of working with government, businesses, and the Alliance of Eastside Agencies. EBC responds to the needs of our agency partners. Agencies such as LifeWire, HopeLink, Friends of Youth, and the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank, just to name a few. That meant that last year, Eastside Baby Corner gave out 30% more essentials for kids, including diapers, infant formula, clothes, and car seats. Over 45,000 orders were placed and filled by Eastside Baby Corner in 2013, and we expect to exceed those numbers this year.
So AEA member organizations, much like Eastside Baby Corner, collectively meet basic food and housing needs. We provide critical mental health and drug and alcohol services for vulnerable youth and families, and address many critical issues that impact all Eastsiders, including domestic violence, homelessness, suicide prevention, as well as elder care. Funding from local cities like the City of Issaquah helps to anchor the community health and human services safety net precisely at the time when it is needed the most. Your support of an AEA member, much like Eastside Baby Corner, whom we are a part of, that saves lives and supports the most vulnerable among us, make our work possible. Please consider the financial impact that you have to individuals and families in need right here in Issaquah that we are all able to collectively help out as you go through your 2015 budgeting process and consider your level of human services needs. And we appreciate, Carrie and I, on behalf of Eastside Baby Corner, appreciate this opportunity to share our thoughts with you this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last on the list, Josie Beck.
Hi, I'm Josie Beck. I live at 1872 Forest Southeast 45th Place, and I live in Issaquah. And I'm here to thank you for any consideration in the transportation, like for the transportation group and for you in moving our project up for the southwest Sammamish area by the state park as far as the safety issue and proposing the $50,000 for the Pinch Point project into the budget. I was at the transportation meeting that was talked about, and I was, understand that there's some challenges in areas of this road and that they need to be looked at, and so I really do encourage that and say that I do support using that money for that in the budget. I use the shoulder, I bike on the shoulder 4 times a week, and I bike on the shoulder to get to a lot of places, but there's always walkers, there's always runners, there's always other cyclists, and we're all using a very small shoulder. And there's always cars. And so every time a bus goes by me, I'm just like, okay, I hope that nothing happens with this bus and it stays where it's supposed to be. And so I have a friend that also went on this ride with me. I said, hey, it's a beautiful day, come out with me, we'll go to the paved, path on East Lake Sammamish, and we'll get there on this shoulder and in the bike lane. And she went out on one ride with me, and we had a pretty good ride. But I asked her to go out again, and she's like, no, I just don't feel safe on that shoulder. I'd be happy to go, put our bikes in the minivan and go to a paved path somewhere. So I just say that I support a sidewalk, I support and a bike lane. And I'm also someone who would support a multi-purpose trail if that happened, if that came out of a Pinch Point study. But thank you for your consideration and the opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience desiring to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Teresa Barretto. I actually live in Sammamish, but I'm here representing Athletes for Kids. I'm the executive director of Athletes for Kids. We are also an organization that is part of the Alliance of Eastside Agencies. And just to reiterate what was said before about the Alliance of Eastside Agencies being a network that is providing Eastside Health and Human Services to build healthy communities such as Issaquah and Sammamish. And as part of the organization of the Alliance of Eastside Agencies, what we are providing, we're meeting a need as well, and the need that we're meeting several needs. Our organization is an organization that believes that children of all abilities should be celebrated. We match children with special needs with high school athlete mentors. And we have been a part of the Issaquah community for 10 years now. We were founded at one of the Issaquah School District high schools in Sammamish in 2002. And we thank the City of Issaquah for supporting us for the last 6 years. And what we wanted to point out to you is that the needs that we are meeting for families is that we're meeting the need for early inclusion and empowerment of children with disabilities. We're meeting the need for increased resources and out-of-school time activities for school-age children with disabilities. We meet the need for respite for all families of children with disabilities, give their parents a break while the kids have an older role model. And we also are filling a need for supportive relationships within families, neighborhoods, and communities. And so we just would like to encourage you to consider funding us once again in this budget based on our Human Services submission that we turned in April. Just one last point, we served 134 children in 2013 with special needs throughout the East Side, and 24 of those children resided within the Issaquah zip codes. Our total number of hours that our mentors served in 2013 was 5,570 hours, and about 1,000 of those were provided for kids in Issaquah. We have 139 athletes in our program today at 7 high schools on the east side, and 3 of those high schools are in the Issaquah School District. So again, thank you for supporting all of the East Side Human Services groups, and thank you for supporting us.
Thank you. Is there anyone else desiring to speak this evening? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Steve Pereira, and I live at 170 Northeast Dogwood Street in Issaquah for about 8 years now. It's even more nerve-wracking standing up here after such great speakers who are doing great things for community service. So, and for those who have Issaquah's honorees for past 10 or 12 years, it's an impressive thing to see and to speak for something positive and doing something positive rather than just speaking about the issue I'm going to speak about, which is asking the City Council to reverse its ban on recreational marijuana in the city of Issaquah. Barring that reversal, I'd ask that you put the vote to a vote of the city of Issaquah. I guess my reasons are as follows. One, you opened with a Pledge of Allegiance, and it's still the law of the land where recreational marijuana is not recognized as a benefit. My second reason is as I drive past down Newport and past the I think it's Clark Elementary School, there's a speed zone that says 25 miles between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. And I kind of thought that was kind of inconvenient at first, but I recognized that it's kind of supporting the city or the kids and saying that we're having this extra special caution around kids and to promote recreational marijuana as something that we want as a city for our kids seems to be a contradiction. My third reason is not seems to be a contradiction, it is a contradiction. My third reason is that there's nothing in the law that was passed by Washington that requires that cities enact recreational marijuana, and there's nothing about that that effectively puts a ban in place, so there's no reason why Issaquah should pass recreational marijuana. It seems all cities on the east side have allowed it. This is a chance for Issaquah to distinguish itself as something unique and different, and something I think I won't speak for the honorees that were here, but they seem to have said Issaquah is a place that's different, and we choose that to be as a conscious decision, not something accidentally that happened. So again, ask that you reverse your previous ban or bar that, put it up for city vote. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience desiring to speak? Anyone else? Third and final call. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Suter. I reside at 133 140th Place Northeast. Although I don't live in Issaquah any longer, wish I did. You didn't have townhomes when I sold my home here. But when you've lived here as long as I did, which was 30 years, I have a long memory. And I wasn't planning on speaking. Sometimes I have a long memory. But I was listening to these young ladies talking about the traffic issues with the bicycle and the pedestrian. And I travel that road sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm very aware of the concerns that they've expressed. But I'm not sure whether the city is aware that there has been a death by Kathy White, the daughter of Bev and Bob White, who's a former, pardon? Yes, former principal of Liberty High School and friend of mine. They lost their daughter in a bicycle accident head-on that road, and that is so many years ago. So I think the concerns that have been expressed have only gotten worse. So I just wanted to add my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else desiring to speak this evening? Anyone else? Third and final call. Seeing no one else desiring to speak, audience comments are closed, and we will move now to committee and regional reports. Before we do that, I would point out that Councilmember Nina Milligan and Councilmember Tola Martz are excused this evening. And with that, we'll begin with Councilmember Mary Lou Pauley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The King Conservation District Advisory Committee is still meeting this week and next to final up some changes on their work program that they're going to be sending for a second time back to the Sound Cities PIC Public Issues Committee for review. So that should be coming back to you through TOLA in about 4 weeks or so. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Scher.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to members of the viewing public. I'll start chronologically with the Eastside Transportation Partnership, which met last Friday, June 13th. We had an update from the Puget Sound Regional Council, PSRC, on what is called the Transportation Futures Progress Report, which is a study that they're undertaking to identify funding sources, technologies, and study travel behaviors in the region. We also had a fairly lengthy discussion with Deputy County Executive Fred Jarrett, who spoke on Metro Transit, specifically a little bit on county roads, focusing on the challenges that are currently facing the county in the wake of the defeat of Proposition 1. It was a fairly detailed discussion with a lot of participation from Eastside member jurisdictions. Deputy Executive Jarrett talked about the challenges and not having the revenue currently to fund Metro Transit. Some of you may be aware recently the county executive vetoed a very divided county council proposal concerning delaying some of the suggested cuts to Metro Transit. And the deputy executive spoke about, quote unquote, right sizing the system, which I suppose if you don't have the money, there's a right size. But they talked about fare box recovery as potentially an avenue to explore. There is another fare hike planned for next year with Metro, and they talked about maybe having to do that some more, but perhaps to offset that for low income and transit dependent individuals, having a reduced fare program where folks could go ahead and get a lower cost ORCA card or some other subsidy to help offset the cost of the transit. So there's a lot of discussions ongoing at the county level and a lot of things that may impact the east side. The next ETP meeting will be on Friday, July 11th. It will be an all-day retreat, likely in Redmond. More details will be coming forward on that over the next couple weeks. I'll be meeting with my fellow leadership tomorrow morning to go over the details of that. The Infrastructure Committee for the Council met this evening before tonight's council meeting, and we had a single discussion, which was related, in fact, to the ETP discussion. This was on our Route 200 within the city of Issaquah and our transit options. Staff had conducted a survey with respect to the Route 200 and have identified the needs of low-income and transit-dependent residents. There was a lot of concern about the loss of that route as part of the proposed metro cuts, which would occur in late fall of this year into early next year, 2015. And we talked about the needs of residents to get around to shopping, get around to work, get around to the food bank, the senior center, other places of need around the city. And so the committee was asked, what do we want to see? What are our goals? We talked about flexibility. We talked about hub connections. We talked about public-private partnerships, public-public partnerships with other jurisdictions. All of these things were discussed by the committee, and staff will be taking those comments under advisement, plus the public feedback that we've heard, and we'll be reporting back to the committee this fall after some discussions have occurred. There's a small silver lining if we lose the Route 200 in that about $50,000 get freed up in our budget, which we can use towards potentially one of these alternative transit options. So the council and staff will be taking a hard look at that over the next several months to see what we can do to offset the loss of our local freebie circulator route. The next infrastructure meeting will be this Thursday for our official meeting at 5:30 p.m. in the Pickering Room of City Hall Northwest. On the agenda will be a recommendation from the committee on the capital facilities plan for transportation and utilities matters, which will be based off of the proposed adoption of tonight's TIP. That concludes my reports.
Thank you. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of reports this evening. The first is Eastside Fire and Rescue June 12th meeting. There was a couple of agenda bills before us that evening. The first was to approve.
Eileen.
Thank you. The first was to approve an amendment to the interlocal agreement, and the approval was for a nonprofit corporation for Eastside Fire and Rescue. The five partners, and its five partners. District 10 has long been our employer of record, and the district indicated their desire to move away from being the employer of record. So this did carry with all five partners, and this will now be operated under the interlocal agreement. We a nonprofit corporation. The 2015 revenue and expense budget was presented. The 2015 revenue budget for all funds is expected to increase by 3.46%. Expenses are expected to increase by 2.54%. This has been sent to the Operations Committee for further consideration and will be brought back to the board in about 2 months. The next report I have is Services and Safety Committee met on June 5th. Before us was the Sprint Telecommunications Facility Lease Agreement that is on this evening's consent agenda. We also heard about use consumption of marijuana in public and driving under the influence of. This will be coming back to the full council on July 7th. We had quite a discussion, but it basically is simply to amend the Issaquah Municipal Code Title VII Criminal Code, and this would, I think I need my glasses, would include an appropriate reference to the RCW 69.50.445 and also ensures that Chapter 9.07 of the Issaquah Municipal Controlled Substance Paraphernalia, Toxic Fumes, and Poison is consistent with Chapter 69.5 of the RCW Uniform Controlled Substance Act. And that will be coming back, as I said, on July 7th. We had two presentations from Arch, and Art Sullivan is here this evening to help walk us through those. The first is an out-of-cycle 2014 Arch Trust Fund recommendation, and the other one is a King County Community Development Block interlocal agreement. We also had a piece of art that we were reviewing, and there was no action taken on that. And the final was an update on the Economic Vitality Strategic Plan presented by Keith Niven. So the last I have is in regards to the tourism organization that is working throughout our community. And there was, we had a teleconference this morning with Roger Brooks International, and they have been retained by the city and the chamber to assist in this community in structuring of this organization to lead the tourism development and marketing plan here within Issaquah. They've been very busy working in the community, and kind of quietly they've been interviewing numbers of different members of our community. They've been working on attractions, amenities, activities, the different opportunities that there are. And they presented us this morning with the first of what's to be a very long process, but 5 recommendations to sort of get us started. And the first was to create a Visit Issaquah organization. And this would actually be creating a standalone organization which would establish a 501c3 and would contract one person, one full-time employee for helping to get this particular piece started. The next recommendation was events recruitment, and this would bring at least the desire to bring at least 30 weekend events to the city of Issaquah. So long-range plans, so it's not all happening at once. The next recommendation they had was to create the very best of Issaquah rack brochure, and had some conversation in regards to making sure that this is across the board, that it's not necessarily directed by any one entity driving this, but really an outreach to create the best of, and only 10 items were to be finally selected for that. The next item was developing a unique Issaquah brand, and there was a lot of discussion in regards to brand and how do you do it, and so this will take some time. It's further down on the list. And the last of them was developing a wayfinding system. And again, this was talked about. That doesn't have to be the big, huge piece all at once. We can start this in phases and begin to, once we've decided on what the wayfinding looked like and the areas that we needed it to be, it was going to be step-by-step process because of course, financials. So that's my reports for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Council President Goodman
No report.
and Council President Winterstein.
I'm really grateful for all my colleagues and all their activities outside of council members. Thank you. I have no report this evening.
With that, then, moving to the mayor's report, I would note the edits made to the summary section of item I, Agenda Bill 6849, acceptance and dedication of property, 7th Avenue Northwest, which is on tonight's consent calendar. The revised agenda bill clarifies that the ditch/channel is classified as a stream. These edits do not impact the motion or proposed resolution. There will not be an executive session this evening. We are still looking for someone who's passionate about library services. If you would like to make an impact on the city of Issaquah, you're in luck, because we'll still be accepting applications up until August the 15th of this year. If you're interested in a unique opportunity to serve as a library advocate in our community, you can visit our website at Issaquah, WA, all one word, issaquahwa.gov/library. And if you would like more information, you can visit an informational open house on Wednesday, June the 25th from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Issaquah Library. The Issaquah Community Network is seeking youth representatives. If you're a teen and you would like to make a difference in preventing youth suicide, reducing youth substance abuse, reducing youth homelessness, and other important issues facing young people in Issaquah, you should consider applying. The deadline to apply is this Friday, June the 20th, and you can learn more about this unique opportunity by visiting Issaquah Community Network, all one word, IssaquahCommunityNetwork.com. We would like to hear from you as we design Issaquah's new skate park. We will be holding 3 public input meetings to discuss design. Public input meetings will be held at Tibbetts Creek Manor from 6 to 8 this Wednesday, June the 18th. There will be one at the same location, same time, on June the 30th, and the third and final one on July the 9th at Tibbetts Creek Manor from 6 to 8. Issaquah will be making some noise this Saturday, June the 21st, to celebrate Issaquah Make Music Day. Make Music Day is a day when people around the world celebrate the importance of music in our lives through free, open, and accessible events. The event is celebrated in more than 450 cities and 100 countries. join in our celebration in historic Old Town Issaquah from 4 to 9 p.m. To learn more about this exciting activity, visit issaquahwa.gov/arts. And with that, that concludes the mayor's report. Moving now to our next item, the consent calendar. I would ask if the accounts payable and payroll have been reviewed.
Yes.
Yes.
And with that then, what is your pleasure on the consent calendar? Council President Winterstein.
I move that we adopt the consent calendar as presented and amended.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none then, all those in favor of approving the consent calendar as submitted and amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Moving in now to agenda item number 8, a public hearing this evening. That's Agenda Bill 6819, and it relates to the 2015 to 2020 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. And so, we are currently getting set up.
I had it on. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Councilmember Scher.
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed in the online packet for tonight's agenda bill that the map which included these projects didn't appear to be with tonight's online version, but it is in the May 19th online agenda bill packet from when this was previously referred. So I don't know if anyone else has checked the online version, but the map doesn't appear to be there. So I just wanted to bring that up, that I hope we'll have that up on the screen. But if anyone needs to find the map online, it's the May 19th version of the agenda bill has that, plus the year-by-year grid and list of projects.
I'll let Gary Costa, our transportation manager, address that question. And are we ready?
Almost. What happened here?
It looks like we're warming up. Does anyone have any good of the order that they'd like to share with our viewing audience or public as we get the presentation queued up? Well, I had a wonderful Meet the Mayor session from 10 to 12 at the Farmers Market this weekend. I've been moving that around, and I talked to a little over 100 people there from pretty much around the world, from Australia, from Branson, Missouri, from Minnesota, to
anyone from North
all the way
Dakota?
from Sammamish, all the way from Snoqualmie Ridge, and a lot of folks from Issaquah. And so, although the weather was a little dicey, it did not rain on us, and it was a wonderful way to spend Saturday. I talked to some vendors who came over, and they said this is the best farmers market, and they always come to Issaquah. And in addition to that, they said, why don't you do it on Sundays also? And I said, well, that's probably a council decision. But I said, but it was a very positive experience. It was fun to talk to young families who come, and there was a great cello group that performed also, in the morning. So how are we doing over there, Gary?
I'm going to have to go without the presentation. I'm sorry. It's
Do you want to
technical
address
difficulties.
Councilmember Scher's question about the map of projects?
Could you repeat it, please, Mr. Scher?
I was just pointing out that the map and the grid that has the year-by-year project list and the detail in each project doesn't appear to be included with the online version of tonight's agenda bill, but I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that if you are online, the May 19th agenda packet, which has the pre-referral bill, pre-referral to committee, does contain the full Exhibit A, which has the grid and the project-by-project breakdown. So if you're looking for it online, May 19th agenda packet is
correct.
where to find it.
So for some reason, I don't know what happened with that. I didn't know that until tonight. We learned about that, so apologize for that. But it is under the May 19th agenda bill, if anyone wanted to look at it.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties here, but I guess I'm going to present without the screen. This is the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. This is from 2015 through 2020. This program is required by the state and federal requirements in order to be able to use federal funds or state funds on our city projects. We need to have these projects listed in the 6-year TIP. Our TIP is also, we go out to future years. We're showing a whole 20-year program for the Transportation Improvement Program in the city. I also want to mention that the TIP is not prioritized in any order. That would be done as part of the Capital Facilities Program and the budget, when you do the budget for 2015. The federal project is called MAP 21. That's moving ahead for progress in the 21st century. And that is what has come about from the federal government. And any federal funds we use through PSRC, those funds are from the MAP 21 funding. And then we have funds from the state called Transportation Improvement Program. Those funds are from the TIB. And as an example, we received $3,500,000 from TIB for our East Lake Sam Parkway project. The TIP was brought to, as far as the processing schedule this year for the TIP, we presented it to the Planning Policy Commission on April 24th and got their comments. We presented it to the Chamber of Government Affairs Committee on May 29th, and we're set the public hearing on May 19th when that agenda bill showed all of the various sheets of the projects and the summary sheet and the map. We presented it to the June 12th Council Infrastructure Committee, and we're here tonight to the public hearing. On June 20th, we'll submit it to PSRC, and then on June 27th, we'll submit it to WSDOT. As I mentioned, we have $389,911,000 of projects in the TIP. This represents 39 projects. We have several new projects we've added this year. I'm just going to go ahead and list through these since you're not able to see these. Southeast Black Nugget Road is the second project on our TIP, retaining wall repair. We just have some identified funds in 2015 that'll help correct some of the deficiencies on that wall. And project number 3 is Mountainside Drive slide repair. This is for $40,000 to do a study to determine what are some of the impacts that we have that we need to look at for correcting any deficiencies of that roadway that possibly could be sliding, and we hope not. Complete Streets and Issaquah roadway network improvements, which is East Lake Sam Parkway, and the Issaquah roadway network's 12th Avenue Northwest are projects that have been identified in the bike ped plan. And in addition to that, Three Trails Crossing improvements. Those 4 projects had been identified in the bike ped plan, and I had identified those in the list to show you that those projects were as part of that plan, although they were already in the TIP before. And then we have 4 new projects that were identified in the bike ped plan. I'm just going to go over those briefly. Northwest Holly Street, it's a multi-purpose path from Rainer Boulevard to across the Issaquah Creek and then eventually tying into Newport Way. We have a tributary D170 trail, which starts off at about 12th and 900 near City Hall Northwest, and that runs down along I-90 and comes into the area where the new Southeast 62nd extension would end at a roundabout near Costco. And we have the Northeast Gilman Boulevard it's a bike ped improvement on Northeast Gilman from Front Street to the XXX driveway, and then continuing east of that driveway to 3rd Avenue would be a multi-purpose path along Northeast Gilman Boulevard that would provide non-motorized improvements that was identified in the bike ped plan. Actually, one additional project that was in our TIP that's listed in the bike ped plan for a multi-use path or a cycle track is along East Sunset Way between Front Street and the I-90. And then we have several projects that were added last year, and I was highlighting those, projects number 31 through 39, that were identified in the Central Issaquah plan. Those are the Front Street and Gilman Boulevard intersection improvements, the Southeast 53rd Street improvements, 13th Avenue Northwest improvements, 15th Avenue Northwest improvements, 11th Avenue Northwest improvements, Northwest Mall Street improvements, Northwest Sammamish Road non-motorized crossing I-90, 10th Avenue Northwest non-motorized crossing I-90, and Northwest Mall Street pedestrian corridor. And I was just highlighting those because those were important that came out of the Central Issaquah plan that added additional projects to our program. I think with that, that's pretty much all I have I wanted to present. I apologize that I didn't have the screen, but I can answer any questions you'd have.
Before we go to questions or discussion, is there anyone that would like to comment further on the transportation improvement plan at this public? Tiffany?
Can I do it from here, or do I go up there?
You have to go up there.
Run, okay. Let's see if I can do this one more time, a little bit better.
You can do it.
There we go. Again, it has been such a joy, a happiness, wonderful thing to work with the city people, between harassing you and my cul-de-sac, Mayor Butler. And then all of you have just been absolutely wonderful to us as we've been bugging you. Again, to reiterate, basically from our neighborhood, the South Lake Sammamish neighborhoods, to the state park, there is no safe access. We either have the shoulder where people cross the white line, and people do not go the speed limit, even though there is the lovely flashing sign, and there are police there sometimes to ticket people. The police have said it is a jello area where they can come and they can keep the speed limit down for a few days, but the second they leave, it goes right back up and people go back to speeding. It is very much when there's heavy traffic, people bypass I-90 and take the back roads, either Newport or the Parkway. And so people, again, I want to say non-native, but people that they're there to avoid the traffic. It's not the neighborhood people that are driving that road. And so they have no respect for the speed limit. They have no respect for any pedestrians that might be there. And to reiterate, the other side is the freeway with sometimes the barrier, the little, what do you call it, the guardrail barrier. But a good portion of that, it is chain link fence. We are asking that as Issaquah is doing this amazing stuff for the downtown area, these wonderful plans to get it more pedestrian, that you don't exclude us, that you give us a safe way to come into the city. And I think that would be about it. Again, the pinch point is vital, but also if the rest of the area cannot be done in a beautiful pike lane, a beautiful sidewalk, then divert us onto the Greenwood Property Trust property, get us over to the state park, and so then we are safe. Basically, we've got kids, we've got elderly. There's a 75-year-old, he's older than my parents, so 80-something-year-old man who rides his bike every day on this road. He deserves to have it safe. And we have kids now that summer is out. Anyway, we have kids on the road. We have all kinds of bikes, kids, pedestrians, everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Josie, any additional comments?
Hi, I'm Josie. Do I state my address again?
I think we've already got that.
Okay, I'm here to reiterate that I support number 10 in the Transportation Improvement Plan to work on the Northwest Sammamish road improvements. The shoulder there is not safe for pedestrians, for runners, for cyclists. I cycle on it 4 times a week, and constantly I'm in a situation where I feel like I don't have enough room. And many times there's walkers and runners coming in the same direction at me, and I need to merge out into traffic, and they have nowhere to go. And so, like I said, every time a bus goes by me, I'm just like holding on like this, hoping everything goes okay. And so, I've taken friends on this road and they just, to go to a nice paved path and take the shoulder and take the bike lanes, and I asked them to go again, and she was like, no, I'm not going again. We can put our bikes in the minivan and go in the minivan. So, I'm just often on this road, even as a driver, I'm on this road and I see, people walking right next to my vehicle. And so it's not safe. I support any improvements on this road. I support the $50,000 that's being discussed in this pinch point areas for these challenging areas that have been discussed at the transportation meetings. And I think any consideration that you give to including this in the budget and to make the road improvements happen soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else desiring to speak? Then with that, I'll close the public hearing at 7:59 and open it up for questions or discussion. Councilmember Scheer.
To kickstart any discussions, I would move to approve resolution number 2014-09, adopting a 6-year transportation improvement program and directing the same to be filed with the State Secretary of Transportation and the Transportation Improvement Board.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion or questions? Councilmember Scheer.
I was going to let someone go first.
Infrastructure Committee.
It has. I was more than happy to cede some time to anyone else. Just a couple comments on this. As Gary mentioned, it's not a priority list. I would again, as mentioned in the committee report, invite anyone who's interested in providing feedback to the Infrastructure Committee on recommendations for priorities, not just in 2015, but in looking at the entire matrix over the next several years. We will be taking that up at Thursday's meeting. And so if you can't come to Thursday's meeting, feel free to email myself, Councilmember Pauly, Councilmember Milligan, who are all on the committee, to provide us with your feedback. And we look forward to receiving public comment on what are priorities to residents around town. It's not a budgeting tool tonight either. It's submitted because it's required by state law. It has a number of new items on it due to the bike ped plan. And I think this is really, in my mind, a transition year for the TIP. And in many ways, I see next year's as being much more critical moving forward because the timing on this is interesting. We're right in the middle, or really the start, of our concurrency discussions. And there's been a lot of talk on basing our impact fees on the projects that are listed on the TIP and looking at the total financial obligation. And so it was even brought up at our last full council meeting, the CAL meeting, or maybe it was a work session. All of us were here, but it was brought up, whether we want all of these things on that list. Do we want to add some? Do we want to take away some? And so I think, we can't really do that now, tonight, without all the information. But as we move towards a new concurrency system by the end of this year, early next year's TIP is going to become very critical in how that system is implemented. We're also going to be looking at, and I'm sure it'll be discussed in our 2015 goals, but a transportation master plan, which will have undoubtedly some impact on the list of TIP projects around the city. I'd like to continue to advocate for what I call smaller roadway mobility projects, things that are not intersection redesigns or mega projects like Lake Sammamish Parkway, but smaller things like the left turns or reader boards or just increase ways that we can move people around the city that don't cost as much money and maybe don't have to be on the TIP but still lend themselves towards a better level of service and operation at our intersections. So this year I see as a transition from sort of the old TIP where we just had this small little list to moving into a much more holistic view of transportation in our city, what we're going to do with the finances that we get from development, how we're going to pay for these projects, what types of projects we want to see, and really the best way to move residents around Issaquah. So that's what we're doing tonight, is passing this plan so we can get the list into the state, but the hard work really comes later. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Are you ready to act on the motion? Are you ready to approve resolution number 2014-09, adopting a 6-year transportation improvement program and directing the same to be filed with the State Secretary of Transportation and the Transportation Improvement Board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving now to our regular business items. Agenda Bill 6827, out of cycle 2014 Arch Trust Fund recommendation. And with that, this is coming from our Services and Safety. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Agenda Bill 6827, and it's an out-of-cycle trust fund recommendation. Art Sullivan from Arch is here to help walk us through this. But this is the Executive Board, which is recommending housing trust fund support for 2 recently acquired federally assisted preservation properties. And if you can help us out, Art, and just walk us through, answer any questions that we have in regards to this. In the meantime, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number
2014-10,
authorizing the duly appointed administering agency for Arch to execute all documents necessary to enter into agreements for the funding of affordable housing projects as recommended by the Arch Executive Board, utilizing funds previously provided to the Arch Housing Trust Fund.
Second.
And I don't know if you want to give us a quick highlight, Art, or if you want to just simply take any questions if there are any this evening.
Looks like Art is ready to respond to any questions that you might have. So questions or discussion? Okay.
Real quick question. I noticed there was a line out in the bill about changing some language from a specific funding amount to money that we had previously allocated. And not being on your committee, Eileen, I just wanted to ask, was that done so that it offers more flexibility in terms of how much we're contributing? Or I know throughout the budget cycle we usually contribute to Arch, and so there's money available. Was that done to not lock us into a specific amount?
Well, it was, I mean, because these have already been approved, so we're not asking for any new dollars, I think is the reason for the strikeout in it.
Right. And if I could add, the resolution for this has a specific dollar amount, but the reason for the change was to emphasize what Councilmember Barber was saying, is that the funds are already set aside.
Other questions or discussion?
Right.
Councilmember Winterstein.
I could do it myself, but Art, I think for the public that may be attending or listening in, I think an overview of these projects and why, from Arch's perspective and our fellow jurisdictions within the coalition, what is of special value to the community for these projects.
Okay, thank you. As was mentioned by Councilmember Winterstein, the two properties that are in front of you are a little bit different, but they also represent one of our top priorities for the last 24 years. These are two properties that were developed through the federal government with private market rate developers, in which they signed 20-year contracts to make this housing affordable. And this is some of our most affordable housing in our communities, because it's one of the few areas in which residents continue to pay based on their ability to pay, regardless of income. And therefore receives ongoing assistance to make sure that the rents are affordable, which is very unlike almost everything we've been doing in the last 20 years. So that's very unique. We had in East King County, the reason this is also so important is that the other federal program that is mostly relied upon, which is the federal vouchers, where a resident is given the voucher and they have to find housing in the broader community, disproportionately lands in other parts of the county because of the relatively high rents in East King County. So this project-based approach, the threat to us is that these owners are allowed to convert to market rate housing after that initial contract expires. We had about 630 units in East King County in this circumstance. There's a little chart that's a little confusing in your packet, but in basic terms, we've made this one of our top priorities, is to work with these owners either to sell to a community-based group or the housing authority or another private owner, to get owners who agree to stay with the federal program in perpetuity, and if the federal program were ever to go away, to still be some level of affordable housing. The result is this project is sort of a milestone, because it gets us down from an original 650 units that we will have preserved 590 of those units in East King County. We've only lost 16 to conversion on the open market, and we still have 1.5 projects out there that are still privately owned. One is in Issaquah. But this is a real milestone. It was the very first thing I worked on when I came to Bellevue in 1990. Two of the properties, and in fact, another unique element of this is because the Housing Authority is involved and how we work at Arch and the cities in Arch, is two projects we funded 20 years ago are actually as a result of the fancy financing that the Housing Authority pulled together here, is repaying to the city of Bellevue $600,000 from two of those properties 24 years ago. That's 600 of the $1.3 million that we're putting into this project today. So it's a very sort of innovative financing or creative financing by the Housing Authority, where they're using that repayment plus equity they have in other properties to make the public ask relatively low for 105 units. It's under $15,000. And our funds are going towards just the rehabilitation. So it looks to be creating a very stable situation for these properties, not only from who it's serving, the very lowest income, and they're both properties for seniors, and they're both in town centers, one in Bellevue and one in Redmond. So overall, this looks like a very win-win situation, and we're very excited to bring this forward for your consideration.
Other questions or comments? Paul.
Thank you. I just wanted to share my perspective that in cooperation with the Housing Authority, but also Arch, this coalition of East Side jurisdictions, I think that this is just a top example of what can be done when we cooperate regionally on a very difficult long-term situation. So I'm very proud of the milestone, a small part of being a member of the Issaquah City Council, but over the years, what has been done, as Art mentioned earlier, to identify and now preserve this housing, to maintain it as affordable, so I think it's Arch is a great concept. It's well executed. I'm glad that we're a part of it. And this is the type of things when we collaborate with our regional partners, we actually make a difference for many people within our own city, within the region. So I'm going to be supporting this.
The one thing I'd add is I've gone all over this country, and if you ask any part of this country to go to the high-cost area of the region, how many of their privately based, privately developed are still around? People, when they hear what we've done here, are amazed. And it is because all the cities have chipped in whenever. You had one a few years ago that we helped preserve, that a number of cities helped. That this partnership has allowed us to jump in whenever needed, wherever needed, and it's resulted in something that's pretty unique in this country.
Thank you.
Other questions? All those in favor of approving resolution number 2014-10, authorizing the duly appointed administering agency for Arch to execute all documents necessary to enter into agreements for the funding of affordable housing projects as recommended by the Arch Executive Board utilizing funds previously provided through the Arch Housing Trust Fund, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that carries unanimously. Moving now to our next action item, Agenda Bill 6828, and this one also is coming back from the Services and Safety Committee.
Thank you, Fred. And again, we're here, and thank you, Art, for being here to help us guide through this additional one. So this one this evening is Community Development Block Grant Funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Issaquah has been a member of the consortium, and again, Issaquah is eligible to participate in the regular CDBG consortium for 2015 through 17, as we did in the last agreement period for 12 to 14. But in order for us to be able to, we need to continue, we need to participate in this consortium. The City Council must approve the new regular CDBG agreement for execute and for signature. There's been some slight changes, and Art, would you walk us through? I know there's some percentage changes in regards to where some of these are being, we're allocating like 15% for human services, and there's some.
Do you need to move it first, or no?
Well, I can. Paul? Move to authorize the mayor to enter in and execute the interlocal cooperative agreement regarding the Community Development Block Program.
Second.
Okay. And so, Art, there was a question.
Right.
You're on.
Okay, so on this one, for the most part, it stayed the same. What the percentage changes is there's what they refer to as like a waterfall process where they start with the total amount and they take certain percentages out for different set-aside purposes. The first one that's described is human services. In the past, they were not explicit about setting aside there's a maximum allowed for services to be used for CDBG because it's Community Development Block Grant, which is mostly for capital, but you're allowed to use a percentage. The region has always used the maximum allowed, which I believe is at 15%. This is now just sort of stating the intention clearly to all parties involved to set aside the maximum allowed for services. The other percentage change was in the single-family repair area where it was actually a reduction from 25 to 20. And the reason that was done is when we started looking at the county as a whole, we saw that that program was being used more in some parts of the county, particularly South County, than it was in others. And so what this was sort of saying is then they increased what could go to subregions, and it was sort of, we said, let the subregions decide if they want to stick to the old percentage, and if it's a program that doesn't work as well, let us use it in ways that work a little bit better for other forms of affordable housing or other capital needs. So that shift was after discussion amongst all the players, and it was sort of that was the consensus solution that would still allow those areas that had been using it more to keep their percentage the same. But for those areas that had been using single-family repair less, then they were getting less of their countywide share because that's administered countywide and it's taken from the countywide pool, that single-family repair program. So this was a way to sort of account for the differentiation in its use over time. So those are the major shifts I think you're referring to in the percentage shifts.
Other questions or discussion?
So
Yes.
Mhm. Yes. Right, and used to that, it had the same language, but it was 25% in the past. It's all they changed was the 25 to 20. And then they did say, because some people, in especially South County, said, but we've used a lot for home repair. And I said, fine, you just got more in the capital pot. You can, now in your sub-region, can decide if you want to get it back up to where it was, you have the ability to do so. Right, and the motivation was we were finding a countywide pot, because some of the funds are done by sub-region. This is set aside as a countywide, and we were seeing it was not being distributed relative to low mod population around the county. So this was a way to give you more discretion actually in Northeast King County to better balance how you can use funds. And so that was the motivation. But that's all they changed, wasn't sort of the up, it was just the 25 is now 20.
Wayne, any other questions? Great. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute the interlocal cooperation agreement regarding the community development block program signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries unanimously.
Great.
Moving to our last agenda item, Agenda Bill 6833, approving the City Council's goals for 2015. By way of brief introduction, the council and city staff met on May 17th, 2014 to develop and prioritize goals for 2015. Polling resulted in the selection of 5 goals: a safe and drug-free community, enhance Old Town vitality, mobility master plan, affordable/workforce housing, and finally a central Issaquah anchor project. Part of our agenda for that day was to review the city's current 2013-2014 goals, and we ran out of time and did not get to that point, and so I'm committed to bringing back a recommendation to the council for our July 21st meeting with a recommendation related to those goals. So I would ask our council president.
Before I make a motion, I actually would like if you could just share with the council the material that's in this agenda bill and the summaries that were provided. Could you just talk a little bit about what your administration staff has done to pull this together? Just give us some background on these documents, because in the past, this is different, and I think just kind of highlighting.
We're talking about process?
Yeah, and not only the process, but just in the past we've had just lists by name or by title. And what are we hoping to accomplish with this form of documentation?
For each of the goals that you selected as a council is a work plan and a schedule that has been coordinated with the senior leadership team and the administration that lays out how we are going to accomplish the goal based on what we heard at the goal-setting retreat, so that there is an alignment between the council's expectation for the goal and the work and the schedule that we will use in accomplishing that goal. Some of the goals span more than 1 year. In fact, several of them do. And this is a little different than what we've done in the past. Because, well, I won't go into what we've done in the past, but this has been a collaborative effort on the part of the council and city staff to make sure that they understand and the interactive process that we went through on what it is you are hoping to accomplish. So this has been a true partnership.
Well, thank you for that. And so this is our chance. One of our goals for goal setting this year, of course, was making sure that there was a very common and shared understanding among ourselves and also with administration. So I appreciate your staff's effort for pulling this together. And this is our opportunity to kind of sign off and say, yeah, those are the goals. My understanding is consistent or not. So if you have any comments about this, would be your opportunity. But so I just wanted to make that comment. And so to get things started, I'm going to, let me find the writing. Hold on, please. It's a simple one. I should memorize this one, right? Yes. I'm going to move to approve the 2015 city goals as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just had a couple of comments, not a question. I thought that the process that was developed by our leadership team this year, working with administration, was really good. I got to participate just as an observer last year, and I'm really happy with the outcome of what we see here tonight. And also think that the format that the staff came back with for how to present the summary of our discussions is really understandable and really clear. I think I know exactly what we're getting and when we're getting it. So I think this end product looks really good.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Councilmember Scherer.
Thank you. We talked at the work session about what we liked about the goal setting and what we didn't, so I'm not going to rehash those comments for tonight. But if anybody in the public wants to go back and look at what the council thought, just find the video from last Monday, and we spent a fair amount of time talking about what worked and what didn't, and what we might like to see at next year's retreat, and where we might like to see next year's retreat be held as well. I.e. in Issaquah somewhere. The only thing I would say, that I agree with the comments that were made about this being a very nice, clear representation. The only thing I would add is there was a fair amount of discussion about other ideas at the retreat, which may or may not have been considered quote-unquote goals. And I think that's one of the tasks that we have ahead of us in the next year is to figure out what a goal is, because we've sort of ended up with this really small list, and we used to have really big lists of things that were just extremely vague, and then we went into very specific giant lists of things, and now we've gone into really small lists of things. So it kind of changes over the years, but I would certainly encourage for things that didn't make the cut, so to speak, things like making sure that our emergency management plan is synced up with our capital facilities plan. I heard the administration say at the retreat that even though that's not a goal for 2015, that it was still something that was going to be accomplished, that it was a beneficial thing for the city. So I hope that things like that, which are still good for the city, which are important for the city, are still going to get achieved, and that we don't lose sight of those ideas that were brought up, and ideas from all of us, that didn't make it onto the official list of goals, but things that were definitely discussed by council members as being important, still get accomplished in 2015 by the administration. So this is the goal list, but it's not the work list. And there's a lot more that the city will be doing over the next year.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councilmember Goodman.
I just wanted to thank you, Mayor, for your office and your staff and all the work that you put into after the goal-setting day, putting together what we have in this packet. I know was not as easy as it appears given the simplicity of the documents that we have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll make sure the staff gets that thanks. Any other questions or discussion? Are you ready to act on the motion, which is to approve the 2015 city goals as presented? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries unanimously. Moving now to our last agenda item for the good of the order. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order this evening? Councilmember Scher.
At ETP, I think I talked with you about this, Stacy. There was a request for guidance from councils with respect to policy direction and particularly the retreat that we're going to have next month in July. Leadership is looking for input from member jurisdictions on items that we should discuss, what as a East Side body we want our policy to be, what's important to us. We've had a lot of back and forth about transit versus roads and where do they both sort of fit in. So really I think what the leadership of ETP is looking for is items that we can talk about at the retreat, some sort of direction in where ETP should go. It was discussed, for instance, that Sound Cities Association took a policy statement with respect to, I think it was on the bus service issue, and so it was discussed whether we should just adopt the same position because we have SCA members who go from our council to SCA, so we've obviously participated and helped form that position. So it would seemingly be inconsistent if the ETP members took a different position. So then we said, well, then what's the point of taking a position in ETP if SCA is going to do it for us? And so that's some of the discussion we had about, you know, whether we want to take different positions in that body, whether there's feedback from all of you to myself and Stacy and you know, to the mayor who goes as well, and to the three of us, and being able to bring your transportation ideas to that forum, your policy ideas. If you have something in particular that you want to see us discuss at next month's retreat, catch me tonight because we're meeting tomorrow morning. So this is an opportunity to help set the agenda for that retreat, and there'll be opportunities to help talk about policy and what you want to see ETP do as an organization. So I don't know if there's a specific ask in there tonight, but I wanted to plant that seed with each of you that the opportunity's there. And if you don't have anything to say right now, that's fine. We can talk offline tonight or in the coming days.
Great. Thank you. Anything else for good of the order? Seeing none, then we are adjourned at 8:28.